An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars. For out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled. Our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
Oh, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Longbox, and I'm pushing buttons, and I don't know what I'm doing. How's everybody doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good. How you doing? It's a long time no see. You, Renie? How's everything?
Long time no see. Everything is great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. RJ, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
I think you both. I think you were on here for a comic book team up before with RJ, right? We were talking about.
I think so. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on short notice too. Since my car accident, I've become so forgetful. I stopped booking people and I forget. Like I booked my guest for tomorrow about an hour and a half ago. I'm just getting so terrible. But anyway,
that's understandable.
Yeah, I'm getting old and forgetful. And I'm wearing my Superman pajamas. I just want everybody to know.
Yay!
It's got a cape and everything.
Very nice.
It's funny. Every time I put this on, I run around the house making noises.
It's you have to do it. It's the law.
I'm like, So you guys, both of you have fantasy campaigns, and would it be fair to describe? Well, RJ, you always say like low fantasy. So Renie, would it be fair to say yours is high fantasy?
I actually don't know. I guess so. I guess it starts out low fantasy. I was going for something similar to Song of Ice and Fire, where it kind of ramps up and gets crazier and crazier, but it starts out kind of just feeling like a medieval world.
Okay.
That's really interesting because basically when I wrote Crom, I thought of it as what happened before Song of Ice and Fire, basically.
Cool. I like that concept. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the book series. If only we can get an ending some century.
I refuse to read those books until that I almost said a dirty word. I almost said a dirty word, but I don't like cursing when RJ's on. I feel like I behave. I won't read those books until that fact finishes. But RJ, since
those books need to be finished.
I brought up the concept of high fantasy, low fantasy. How would you define those terms?
I would say low fantasy is more basically a hodgepodge of things where it doesn't have any fixed rules, or not fixed rules that you can, tack down. That's basically the Conan mythos where you can throw everything in and it doesn't matter how magic works. It can work from different ways and different stories and things like that. But I say high fantasy is more contiguous and has some set systems whereby you're actually giving the reader a little tidbit of look into the world and how it works in its own physics, basically.
So would you call Tolkien? Would you say that that's high fantasy or low fantasy?
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely high fantasy.
And what about Song of Ice and Fire?
No, I'd say that's low fantasy.
That's low fantasy. Okay, all right. So we're in agreement there. Because Renie, your book has monsters and spellcasters and everything. So I would call your book high fantasy just because they start out in a little village. But do you feel like magic should be scarce? Like, I think like there should be just magicians walking down the street even in a high fantasy world, you don't see Conan bumping into wizards everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, even in Tolkien, you don't really have wizards everywhere, though. They're still rare. It kind of is necessary for power balance, but I really don't know. I haven't really thought of these definitions, but I guess it kind of transforms. It really does start out low fantasy and then becomes more crazy.
I think with the glyphs everywhere and your own language, I would say it was probably on the verge at the very least, if not full high fantasy.
I guess so. I do commit to the world building a little extraneously.
Yes, I was going to talk about that later, but since you jumped on, I love the world building in your book, Renie, to the point where I got a little inspired, and I'm going to introduce a spellcaster. Superheroes. There's Doctor Strange, there's Doctor Fate, and I have a hard magic system with rules and everything like that. But the only thing is, I never really wrote the sigils. So I'm like, if Renie can make up her own dice and her own language and everything, I can make up these 26 glyphs. There's 26 glyphs in this magic system. I can write them out. That's not too difficult. So there you go. You're the inspiration for
Oh, I'm glad to hear. It's fun. It's fun to make up these things.
And I'm hiring my buddy's daughter. She might make like a fake spell book, like a couple of important pages, that we could put in when we introduce this magic character.
That's fun.
That's awesome.
If you're looking at some of the stuff in my trailer, there's writing in the background, but it's not really writing. It's basically old Ogham, which is the ancient system of writing they used before the Irish even got to Ireland. And all I did was I pumped in what I wanted to say into a computer program that translates things into Ogham, and then I put a filter on it to basically bend it a little bit, and that's what the script in the background is.
Ogham.
Yep.
Oh, I love stuff like that. I never heard that term before. Ogham. I got to check that out. I want to adjust the chat. I just realized I've been ignoring the chat. We got a Wild Renie stream. Yeah, I think I asked you like 3 days ago, right? Yep. And hit Fiendish. So your book is Fiendish. You can still get it at fiendish.com. Oh, wow. You have your own site? I just realized that.
Yeah. I spam it all the time. I do have my own website. I actually don't have a live campaign, but I am always marketing, and the books are always available on the website, and I also have them available on Global Comics, which is a digital platform. So you guys can read them anytime. We have 3 books already.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I love.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, got to listen along. Oh, Crenshaw. I saw Crenshaw the other day. Looks exactly like the Patriarchs. That's pretty cool. Vaughn Coleman says, John, when's my second issue launching? I'm almost done with mine. You're slacking. Yes, I know. I keep saying sooner rather than later. I don't want a date. Renzo had a couple of commitments that he had to fulfill. So I told him, go ahead, finish those. I'd rather you finish those and then, work without any distraction with me. And then I felt like January I was going to launch in January, but it just looked like people didn't have enough money. I didn't want to, it seemed like a bad time to launch. So I want to launch before the end of this month. So that will say that. You're also on Global Comics. Dirty Fatty almost missed this. It's good that you're here. Zactan with my blessing. I don't feel comfortable unless I get a blessing from Zactan. And looking forward to the next chapter. Cool. All right, we're all caught up. So, you both included maps. And RJ, I do have your map. I did get your map. I was going through my my comic book group, just got a mess after my car accident. I just started throwing everything back there, just rather than clean, just throw it in the back room. So I finally went in there and sorted everything out, and I got your map. So I remember I said I didn't get it, but I guess I lied. I get so much stuff I forget. So I got Renie's map. I got frames for them both, and I'm looking for a place to hang them up. I got Rob Geronimo's map for Blood Realm. I love, and I keep calling them fake maps, but they're not. They're real maps to fake places. There's a difference. Did I lose
That's
everybody?
very true.
I put everybody. All right. Good night, everybody.
No. I am having some technical difficulties, so I'm like screwing around with my studio setup here, but don't mind.
You're not
me.
the only one. I just had technical difficulties myself.
Oh. Wonderful.
RJ's like squatting in a cave with like a Starlink or something like that.
Yeah, me and Elon are we go back.
Yeah. Well, you got to do what you got to do. Vaughn says you dodged a bullet not launching in January. It's been rough. Yeah, the reason why Vaughn
January is terrible,
because Vaughn and I were gonna launch the same day, but he announced it first, so I was like, I can't launch the same day as Vaughn, so I went back a week, and then when he announced his second, I was busting his chops saying, I was gonna launch that day. So so I was watching Vaughn's campaign, I was watching a bunch of people's campaign, and I Renie and RJ, you both understand a lot's riding on each campaign. So I'd rather wait and get more things under control. I'm trying to be more organized the second time around. I think I'm succeeding. I got more stuff done. My book is about 50% done, but
great.
I got like the pre-press and stuff like that already being worked on. Literally,
that's really good.
Yeah, my last campaign, I'm not even joking. I started doing that like a month before printing. I didn't realize how labor intensive all that stuff was.
It really is. Yes. It's that's why I haven't. I think some people think I have launched Fiendish 3 when I haven't, and I've said I'm not launching until I don't know why, because I've been posting pages, but I'm getting the work done before launching the campaign, and everyone thinks I'm like, okay, is this a novel concept? But I guess so. I'm not going to get the whole book done, but I'm trying to do as much as possible before summer, and I'll launch in the summer.
Oh, that's when you're going to launch in the summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the plan.
Cool. And RJ, you have Crom currently being worked on, and you also have Fade to Blue.
Yep.
Every time I talk to you, you're getting closer and closer. Any time about that being launched?
Well, we have the first 2 books ready. The third book we're just about to start on. I would like to have 3 books done because they're just floppies, right? So we'd like to have 3 books done because it's only black and white. And we have a couple of blue pieces in there with the basically it's kind of like magic, but not really. And with that done, I want to have all 3 because I don't know. I was going to do it exclusively digitally, but I got people saying you're only going to do digital and that's it. So I'm thinking, if it was digital only, I could launch right now. But if people actually want the hard copies along with the digital and have a choice, then I'd like to have 3 books ready.
Finally, okay.
Are you? Because I have a storm going on right now. Are you storming? When I have a storm, forget about it. I'm lucky I'm able to stream.
No.
Oh,
everything's fine.
Hey, Ron's here. It's Romo from Romo Art. Ron is the artist on the Unheroic Tales, the suit in the second part of my comic. It's good to see you, Ron. Let me know when you're ready to do art again. Let me know when you're ready to do art. Immersion Ruined. Yeah. Yeah. RJ was saying that you were gonna release just digitally, and then you decide you got to do print and digital.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna back you, RJ, no matter what. But I gotta have a physical book. I'm still old school. Renie, are your customers, are they mostly digital, or are they a nice mix or 50-50 of hardcovers? Not hardcovers, physical copies and digital.
Most of my sales are still physical, but I'm definitely branching out into digital just because it's nice to have an option. And especially after hearing how so many international customers or people who are overseas are interested in Fiendish, but the shipping is ridiculous, right? In a lot of places. So some people were asking for digital, and I want to provide the book for as many people as possible. So I have the digital option, and also I'm trying to convert myself to this thinking of making the work more easily accessible. And that instead of having starting out with like a really high barrier of entry, and that invites more people in, especially because I mean I'm not a famous creator, I'm not that well known, it's a new series, so people need convincing, or they're not going to just buy it right off the bat. So having something easily accessible like a digital version or a free preview, which I've always had for Fiendish, invites new customers in. So that's what I'm doing.
Honestly, think that the best thing, if I was like you and I could be an artist as well as the writer for it, to do something on Webtoons, like just do something like chibi stuff, and it's your warm-up. Basically, when you're warming up for the day, do some chibi little thing that's a funny little drawing of your Fiendish characters as your warm-up, and then just stick it on Webtoons. And there you go. You got entry into your book on an entirely different level.
Yeah. Webtoons is I for certain reasons I choose Global Comics over Webtoons. Like the pages just look better, but hey, any digital platform that suits your project is pretty good in my opinion.
Do you find is it getting you customers or exposure, Global Comics?
I mean, chapter 1 of Fiendish has like 11 or 12,000 views on Global Comics. So I don't know how like it's hard to gauge how much that transfers into sales, but I mean there are eyes on my book, and that's all I care about right now.
Yeah, I met the night of Comic-Con when we played Chase throughout the city.
And still didn't meet up.
Yeah, she's like, John, I'm over here, and then I would get there. Oh, too late, I left. I think you weren't even in New York. I think you were like,
it was all a lie. I wasn't even in New York. You caught me.
It was all worth it. I got to watch Vaughn eat, which was an exciting experience.
My condolences.
I'm not even joking. The waitress didn't bring out all his food because she thought he was joking when he ordered like enough food for 3 meals, and she brought out one of them.
What?
And he's like, "Where's the rest of my food?" She goes, "Oh, I thought you were joking."
Oh, that's hilarious.
But I met that night. I in one of these. I showed you how out of touch I am. We went to a bar. And it was an anime themed bar, and they were watching Japanese, anime and everything like that with pinball and Pokemon all on the walls. I'm like, I am so out of what's going on with the youngins. But I met the woman who runs Global Comics, and she was talking about you, and she gave me her card and everything.
Aww.
It was a very, very fun night. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they're really cool people. I recommend the platform a lot. I mean, I genuinely just like the platform because they're everyone's heard about Webtoons, right? And other there's like Tapas as well. There's a few digital comics platforms, and clearly they work for other creators, because some creators on Webtoons get like billions of views, but for Fiendish, my priority was I wanted something that had really high resolution. I wanted to really look good. I didn't want like an 800 pixel cheap, or just like something that looked like it was made to only be read on a phone. I want options. I want this comic to feel like you can read it on a phone, on a tablet, or on a big screen, and it'll be big and beautiful, like a proper fantasy comic. So, and the interface is great. So that's why I picked their platform. A lot of the Webtoons are like newspaper strips. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and that works for some people. Yeah, but that's not what I'm making. Yeah, you're making a full on comic with nice art, color, and everything like that. You want nice resolution. Yeah. I
Yeah.
try.
Is there any platform out there? Because one of my artists, it was Jim O'Reilly, I think. When he was doing the first pages for Crown the Destroyer, he posted it on a website, and I don't even know what program he used. It's probably just something that's fairly simple for artists, but he made it so that it looked like on the screen a comic book where you could turn the page. You actually saw the pages turning whenever
cool.
you did it. I was like, that's how it should be published online, if you ask me. Looking like a book.
That would be cool. Like you have like
Mhm.
a pen and you swipe, and it has to make that little paper noise.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Global Comics has like double page view, so my spreads can still show up as spreads, and I like that a lot. But someone should have like an actual page turn, and like you said, the sound effect. Ooh,
That would be really cool. I know like a lot of e-readers now that it looks like paper. Like it's not just a bright.
Mhm.
The book looks like paper and print and everything like that. So
Yeah.
that I really like. I don't know.
Hello.
I'm still old school. Like I got to get a comic book in my hands. You know, I want a physical comic. You know, and I was dragging my feet about making digital for my comic Heroic Tales. But Ashley, who did Ashley's Argonauts, said, you know, I live in Ireland and I want to get you a book, but I don't want to pay like $30 just to ship it. You know, I'm glad I did. Now, when I get a sale digitally, I'm like, bing! I don't have to go to the post office. I don't have to print out anything. You know, I don't have to put tape on a box. You know, so now I'm like, hey, digital, all right.
Yeah, honestly, it's like why I do merch through Printful, which is they do your production and fulfillment. They do everything, and it's just like I don't have to handle anything. I just set it up, and it's great. Another great thing about digital is I don't have to do anything. I have suffered enough writing and drawing this comic. I do so much, basically almost everything on the comic except the colors. Yeah, so it's great. I can just leave it and people will see the book. And maybe one day pay me.
You do your lettering too?
Yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
I wonder if in the future they're going to, because there's so many different things like Printful and Lulu and things like that. But I wonder if in the future there's going to be versions of what we do today with first and second printing, as in, you know, examining where in the timeline this got printed, and it would be more expensive, you know, if you get an earlier copy. I think that's going to be something in the future.
I've had customers tell me that, because I had some printing issues with Fiendish 1 because it was in the middle of COVID and there was like supply shortages. It was a cluster, but people do care about the first printing, and because I noticed that people don't not only care about what cover they have, which print run, I started labeling, differentiating which covers are which print run. And I have that like a chart on the website, so you can kind of tell which run it was.
That's a good idea.
People do care about that.
Yeah, that is a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm one of the people that messaged you. Did you have any first? You know, I think I first interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a first printing? You know, and I bought it directly from
you. You're a serious collector, and serious collectors care about that.
Yeah, I want the first printing. You know, to the point. I wonder in this what we're doing now, this crowdfunding, indie, whatever scene you want to call it. Is this like the death of like collector comics? Like you know?
No,
like,
I don't think so.
But
I think it's going to be like Renie said. If you do something like that, and you have a system whereby you can gauge what is printed when, yeah, that's just going to become a new system.
Yeah, because I don't have that many Heroic Tales left, and I would like to do a catch-up tier for my new campaign, and I think I should do like a new cover then. This is the second printing of Heroic Tales. You know what I mean? Make the first issue more collectible. I don't know. Renie, you just every time I talk to you, you give me good ideas.
Well, I'm glad.
Because I was just thinking print up another run. You know what I mean? Like, do people really care? But yeah, I guess I'll ask the viewers.
Collectors care.
What do you guys think? You know,
I think if you get enough money, like if you're generating enough money to do another printing, you should have enough money to do another cover.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
So, yeah, so the key with doing variant covers is if you do it at the same print run, as long as the guts of the book are the same, it costs a not negligible but very little more. It's like maybe another $100 or something. So because the actual cost is all the meat of the book itself. So if you know what covers you're going to do, here's the key: just do all of the variants regardless of when you're going to release it. Even if you have a convention exclusive that's like 6 months down the line, print it all in the first print run, and that way you save a lot of money.
Renown says a Renie cover for Heroic Tales 2. No, I have Josh Howard as a variant cover, and I have Jose Garcia as a variant cover, and Renzo as the regular cover. But you know, you never know if I have to do a second printing of Heroic Tales #1, right, Renie? You never know.
I'm always here.
Somebody had a comment that I wanted to say something. Oh, Renie, how large percentage wise do you do your pages at?
So, if you're talking about penciling, let me see. I have Photoshop open.
Yes, Shadowpunk makes his own comic. A comic called Shadowpunk was absolutely excellent. So
cool.
He's going to ask you more technical questions. I wouldn't have thought of asking something like this.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of zoom in and out like everybody else, but maybe 60%, 70% or so. I work at 600 DPI though, so that's still pretty big. But as some of you know, recently I've been printing out my pencils. I'm doing digital pencils and traditional inks. So my inks are on 11x17 Bristol board, just like, you know, every other comic artist. But the pencils are digital.
You say Printful, the actual printing of your comic, or just the digital? This guy.
No.
He's gonna make bootleg copies of Fiendish.
Yeah. That's no. So Printful doesn't print my books. I have a printer that's totally separate. But Printful is basically a merch service. You guys should also really check out Printful. They print like t-shirts and mugs, blankets, sweaters. They even have like a leather jacket, which I'm very proud of. I have a Fiendish leather jacket, and like tumblers. They have a lot of products like gym bags and stuff. And they have like an online layout thing where you can just design your own products with not just logos but your own graphics, and you just upload that. You can link it to your store, either your own website with your own URL like mine, or I think you can link it to like Etsy and Shopify. I know you can link it to Shopify. I think Bancroft does that. And it just automatically, they just print it. They print it in a factory in your country, and they do the shipping. The profit margin is not high because they do everything for you, but you get your merch out there and you don't have to warehouse.
You don't just buy it and have boxes tripping over it just in your
Yeah, this is exactly what I didn't want. I cannot warehouse. I have too much stuff already in my house. So with Printful, you don't have to do that. I'm just like, Printful and Global Comics should be paying me to advertise.
All over the place.
Oh my.
So you had Printful, did they actually ship your comic? Because RJ, you and Renie, neither one of you guys fulfilled yourself, like you had a service too?
I fulfilled Fiendish 1 myself, and I'm never doing it again. Right now, I another RJ does my fulfillment. RJ from Critical Blast.
Yeah.
And he's great.
Yeah, he's been on my channel. He's absolutely wonderful. He was very helpful to me, but I just didn't think I was successful enough to warrant another expense. You know what I mean? Like, plus I kind of wanted to do everything by myself at least once. But oh my God, I planned on being home, you know, take a couple of weeks off of work, but my car accident ruined that. So I had to go to work and then stay up till 10 o'clock every night banging a board. I was like a robot, but it was kind of fun to do it. It was an experience. I would recommend it to everybody. Fulfill your first campaign just so you know everything, you know. But
it's an experience. It's definitely an experience to have.
Oh my God. I was like, and then when I was done, I was like, what do I do now? Like for 2 weeks, I did nothing but boxes and boxes. And the neatest thing was I found out that the post office will actually come to your house and pick everything up. I didn't know that. That was so good once I realized that, because I was just taking everything down on Saturdays. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had my
I-
6 posters laid out on my kitchen table. I was like, grab, fulfilling because everybody wanted different posters, different. It was hectic to say the least when I did mine.
Yeah, I don't know what my problem is, but I'm so slow with fulfillment. I think because I'm very particular, I like to pack everything really perfectly, and then I have this like custom tape, and it literally took me months. You said 2 weeks, it took me like months,
Yeah,
and
we-
I hated my life.
Yeah, I
It's not
got
good.
tape. You know, I started out like I was gonna put like little thank you for little personalized message. I gave that up after like 3. You know, I was like, I can't do that. You know, I try to.
Mhm.
Somebody, oh yeah, Zach then said he wants to get the lemonade variant cover for Kip. I still got some. I got some for you right over here on my spinner rack. I got all my variants. We saw that already. Ryan Brank, I use Printful for my print-on-demand merchandise. We'll be using from the comic book shipping as well. That's cool.
I think they have weird. Sorry.
No, go
I
ahead.
think they offer warehousing. That might be what you mean. But I might be wrong. Yeah, I don't use them for comics, but maybe they do that.
So neither one of you guys like have like all your extra stock shipped back to your house in a box.
I do.
I have
For my
a
first
chunk.
campaign.
Yeah, I have a bunch left over from the first campaign, and I have the printer or RJ send me a chunk of all the merch and all the books. So I do have a bunch at my house.
Yeah, I would. My goal is, if I hit a certain number in my head, I'm going to go with RJ again. I'm hoping I could do it. This campaign. I'd like to think I generated trust in people. I was 3 weeks late. That just it burns my butt. But there was a really bad printing error that I could not. One page just had no dialogue whatsoever. And the funny thing is, dialogue. But I knew people were going to bust my chops. I couldn't do it. So that put me back.
I get it.
List for printing.
I actually still have about
understand.
3 boxes left. My Thomas Valiant #1 because I had a private sale of a guy who wanted to distribute them to military bases, and he said, "I want $5,000 worth." And I got everything ready, and I printed all his books for him, and I tried to contact him, tried to call him, said his books were ready, and he disappeared. Like he disappeared.
That's messed up.
So you have all
Damn.
those books?
Oh, he paid for it. He paid for it.
Oh well, then,
I'm saying, he paid.
well, then let's sell them again. Oh man, at least he paid for them. That's good. That's good. I'm thinking like I didn't notice it. It's so hard to notice your own. Like I got a couple of typos in my first issue, and it's funny because I didn't notice it, and then my wife opened up the book. She just, hey, look, there's a typo right on the first page.
Yeah, it's I have one typo because I looked over Fiendish One so many times. I only have one typo. I'm not going to tell anybody where it is, but in the second edition, which is how you know it's a different print run, that typo is fixed.
Right.
So,
that's what I was going to ask. Are you going to fix the typos? Because
yeah.
There's 3 typos that I found. Well, 2 typos and then one just error that just needs to be fixed. So like,
yeah,
that'll make it collectible, guys. You got the typos. You got the typo.
Yeah, we can get I mean, I think comics needs to take editing more seriously, especially like copy editing. So I have I mean, I have an editor that is more like story editor, Michael Odin. And then I mean, I have, I show all my friends the story multiple times, so I have a lot of eyes going over stuff before it goes out. But then people miss things and I miss things. And my friend Allie, I don't know if you guys know her, she has like typo radar. So I'm starting to show her absolutely everything I do, and it's great. So no more.
I reached out to her and asked if when I'm ready, if I could hire her to
good.
I just get embarrassed, you know what I mean? Like,
well, same here.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a comment on one of my videos saying he was so disappointed in the Valiant Heroes because there was a typo in where it's supposed to say loose and it says lose. Things like that. I was like, I was just hanging my head in shame. One little letter.
Yep.
It's
terrible.
Instead of where, it says we're. Or something like that. One or the other. We're supposed to say we're, and it says where instead of, whatever. And then I spelt my friend's name wrong. I thanked him. And I spelled his name wrong. But nobody knows that typo. But and it's funny because him and his wife and his daughter and his daughter's fiance were over here last week. The first thing she says is, "You spelled my dad's name wrong." I was like, and he was just like, I was gonna let it go. But I felt so bad.
It happens.
Yeah, so I'll fix that.
Yep, no more. We shall edit our books.
And right before we went to print, I spelt the main bad guy's name wrong, two different times on the first page, and thank God I fixed that.
That's one of the things with fantasy. When you make up names, you try to keep it. I'm trying to keep it so that you have the same spelling all the time. Oh, it drives me nuts.
Oh yeah,
I think I don't have a problem with that for some. Well, I haven't had any. All the characters with really long names come later, so watch for me to shoot myself in the foot in a couple books. But I'll tell you a funny story. I had an art error in Fiendish 2 that we barely caught before going to print. It was so bad. So my character Easkull has a curse where he basically can't touch anyone without being in massive pain. It's like Rogue, except it's a little different. The actual effects are different. And like in one panel, I just forgot. And it's like my brain just didn't pick up on it. I penciled and inked this page, sent it to colors. My colorist colored it, and he was just like petting this this pet cat, this giant cat. Anyways, he was petting another character and touching them as if nothing was happening. And I had sent the pages to the printer already, and I had to tell them, stop. I need to make an art edit. Do not print this page. And I caught it. Otherwise, it would have been, I mean, I don't know if anyone else would have cared, but somebody would have caught it and it would have been embarrassing.
Somebody would catch it.
Oh, yeah. I definitely know exactly what you're talking about, because for Fade to Blue, there's a fellow with the death touch. And my artist sent me back pages wherein he would just had his hand on somebody's back. It's like, nope, do it again. I'm glad I caught that.
Yeah, these details matter.
I'm usually pretty good. Like, I'll read a Marvel comic. There's on average like one typo in every Marvel comic. Believe it, at least the old days. Who knows? Maybe more today.
You.
But your own stuff, because it's true, you don't read your own stuff. You know it by heart, that you kind of just glance at the words and then your brain fills. So I didn't notice my typos. I'm so embarrassed by it. Oh,
gotcha.
Superpowered cat is what I'm saying. I want, yeah. The poor cat.
It's not super powered, but it's basically a giant snow leopard. Yeah, it's cool. It kills things.
Yeah. So
character.
Every time I see Renie and RJ, I always bring this up, that like I have a stretch goal. If I make it to $100,000, that Renie and RJ are coming to New York and we're going to play role-playing games. Because I know Renie, you play Pathfinder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't switched none of this 5e?
No.
Just
no, I've played one game of 5e and I didn't like it because it felt like it was for babies. But it's I mean, I'm just used to the pain of Pathfinder, and I'm like, oh no, this is not putting me in pain. I don't like it. But yeah, I'm still Pathfinder 1e. Haven't even done 2e. So, but I'm open to other systems. Enlighten me.
This is what we're playing. I got it. This is what we're playing. My house rules of villains, vigilantes.
Cool.
Okay. It's a superhero game, heavily house ruled by me. And I joke that I'm going to make a shield mask for him so his face won't be on the camera. Matter of fact, RJ, if you come over, I want you to wear like a burlap sack. I don't know what you look like, and I don't want to know. Like I said a million times, it's always disappointing. But
I have to change. I have to change my avatar to the actual Fourth Age shield that we have now. For
you need to make a mask that's the shield with eye cutouts and wear that.
Yeah, that's a little weird. But I just think it would be something like, RJ will be Thomas Valiant. Renzo will be the patriarch, because I got to run the game, so I don't get to play.
I'll do the grifter thing. I'll just put on a hat and it'll come down over my face, right? It'll be like a shade over top of the face.
We'll set the camera up behind you so we don't see You know what I mean? You only see the back.
I'll be like Norm's wife in Cheers. You know, you never see her.
You never see her.
I'll play whatever character that I mean, I did voice a character, but it's a background character.
And Mask calls her for the we'll call him the Shield. I just think that would be so much fun. Brian will come over and play. He'll be Wolf and Batsy, and Fabrizio will be Horace H. Hoover, and just we'll record a role playing session. You know, we'll make up our characters, and I'll try to kill you all, and then you guys will come up with some crazy solution. So
wonderful.
I gotta ask, because you're one of the other role players that are famous for being a role player on the tabletop role play. Do you think healing makes it too easy? Like on Twitter, somebody said, like, how would your D&D game be without the healing character? And I said, more fun. And people got attacked. I got attacked for that because it raises the stakes, and when the stakes get raised, there's more tension. When there's more tension, I think there's more fun.
It would just be Curse of Cthulhu then.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Like, the wizard just touches you, or the healer just touches you, and you're like, okay, you know,
yeah.
I'm gonna do this.
Are you asking? Were you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, well, I have experienced this because what happened in one of our earliest Pathfinder campaigns in our group was everybody made martial characters, and we had like a druid who got knocked out, and the player left the game very early, so we had nothing. And I have a ranger who doesn't cast spells, and we got stuck in a dungeon right away with just a rogue and a ranger. So I mean, I know what it's like, and I will tell you, it was really hard, and we suffered a lot during that portion, but it was, to this day, the most memorable thing I've ever played, because you're constantly managing so much. It raises the stakes so much, and you have to consume or conserve your resources the whole time.
Yeah,
it really makes you focus. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons where in Fiendish I made healing magic. It's not like it's difficult in the sense that you can't heal in the middle of battle. I haven't really talked about this, but you have to, because human magic is based around aura manipulation. Like, every person's aura is attuned to different elements, but healing magic, people who have life domain magic can heal. But to do that, people have like a barrier around their aura, so their aura has to be lowered. Basically, you have to put people to sleep to heal them, and it takes a lot of time. So you can't just heal them in battle. And that was one of the things in Pathfinder. If you have a wand of cure light, you can just go on and on and on. That doesn't exist in my world.
Yeah, I totally agree. We just played a superhero game a couple of weeks ago, and the characters get a little. I don't, because they play Dungeons & Dragons with another group, and then they play with me, and I have no problems. Like, I'll rip your sheet up in front of you. You're dead. You know what I mean? You made a mistake. You know what I mean? But these guys are new, so I don't want to chase them away yet. But they were superheroes. They were like doing XCOM. They were para-dropping from the like the atmosphere, and you know, they were invading China. They were trying to do something that the government had to disavow. One of them failed his roll and literally hit the mountain and tumbled down the mountain, and the other guy went to go save that guy and failed his rolls, and they both ended up having like 1 hit point left for the entire adventure. And then submerged lake, blah blah blah. Long story short, it turned out that the Chinese government had a dragon trapped. It was a fire dragon trapped under, like, they flooded a city, had a fire to keep it trapped. So now they're fighting a dragon with only 1 hit point, and it was planning their moves now. I'm like, oh, you're not so flippant now because you could lift.
Yeah, that's great.
And they were like fighting. We can't fight the dragon. No, we it was. They split the party and people died. But even in a superhero game, don't split the party.
Of course, if you have 1 hit point, there's just no way around it.
Yeah, they're like, how are we supposed to fight a dragon with 1 hit point? I said, you aren't supposed to fail your rolls, and
you weren't supposed to fall down a mountain, bro. Even better, in Pathfinder, you can go negative. You can fight on negative hit points. and you can be conscious but still have negative hit points, but it just means you're limited. You can only do like one action. It means you're staggered, or at 0 you're staggered. But anyways, it's complicated. But we've had to go into fights with characters that are in the negatives, but there's no choice because we're in the middle of a dungeon.
I feel bad for RJ because this is just like when he was growing up when his brother wouldn't let him play D&D with him.
I'm just thinking of there's a really good Dungeon Craft did a really good video about the art of early D&D for 1st edition and 2nd edition, showing how you see them and basically they got their feet pointing in 2 different directions because 1st edition and 2nd edition, you're about to die. If you step into anything, you're about to die. You got to be ready to flee at any point. It's not like the modern stuff where you're basically a superhero. You're just going to be ready to die at every point.
Yeah.
Good point. The early D&D systems were brutal.
That's what I hear.
Oh, you never put. So is Pathfinder your first system that you played?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I've only played Pathfinder 1E, and I played a little tiny bit of 5e. I hear the early versions of D&D were brutal. I mean, I'm open for trying it as long as they're balanced. That's cool. I like more brutal games anyway.
Yeah, it's brutal. This Villains and Vigilantes game that I like, you have one set of stats for your hit points, which is the same as Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, I assume. But then you have power, which represents how tired you are. So just think that you're the Human Torch. For the Human Torch to burst into flame, it costs him a little bit of energy. So he loses a little bit, like he gets a little bit tired. And then, you want to throw 16 punches, Spider-Man's going to flip, do this. You could do all of that, but that costs you energy. That costs you power. It doesn't cost you
that.
So
that's good.
So if you have 0 hit points, but you still have power, you're unconscious. If you have 0 power, but you still have hit points, you're fatigued. You know what I mean? So you're like Rocky, when he was, or Apollo Creed. So I really liked when you have 0 hit points and you have 0 power, then you die. So it's a superhero game, so it's not really designed for lethality. But then I added critical damage, stuff like that, because without that stuff, you get too flippant, and if there's
a critical damage is fun as well.
Yeah.
Sounds very much like the old Marvel games that used to be for really old PCs, like the Commodores and stuff like that, where you basically, if you're the Human Torch and you went Nova, you're dead, right? Because you have no power left.
Right. Yeah. It's part of Heroic Tales too, but there's an ability where, not an ability, but there's a point where you overexert yourself, and you could just, almost go nuclear, I just like the idea that, like, again, this is part of the world building. Human beings aren't supposed to have superpowers. It's artificial. You'll learn a little bit more about it in issue 2, where superpowers. I didn't want to throw too much world building in issue 1. So you could pull out power through this imperfect human body and human mind and lose control of what you're doing, and then also drawing super abilities kind of corrupts your mind, and it gets easier and easier to just, all right, I'm going to use my telekinesis to get that cup of coffee. I'm going to make less effort. I'm going to make my life. And then next thing you know, you're evil, because that's what evil is just, I want to take the easy route to do everything. So superheroes, the patriarch's family and his home life keeps him grounded, but most superheroes sooner or later are going to turn into bad guys, and Captain America kind of like, super will. But anyway, I like that. I don't know why I just went off on that tangent. It doesn't take much.
No, cool.
To get me rambling. Ripping up forms. Yeah, I did that to one guy, and there was almost a fight. I was like, let me see. How many hit points you got? You got 9. Let me see. You're dead.
That's rough. You can't. You wouldn't be able to do that with like players nowadays. They flip the fuck out.
Oh, it's funny. As a joke, I saw an online forum. It was like a role-playing consent forum. Like, what are your trigger words? Like, are you, like I'm afraid of spiders. So I printed it out for my group. This was my old group, and I was in my early 50s, and these guys were like in their late 20s. So that's a real big difference, and I printed out the joke, and they started filling it out. you know, and I'm waiting for them to giggle. I'm like, okay, they're gonna get this, and they never thought it was a joke. And then they started. I'm like, you don't think this is funny? They're like, no, we think this is a good idea. I should have realized then that it was going to end badly.
Yeah, my generation and Gen Z are a little broken. I apologize. I don't disagree with like a small level of that. It's like, oh, some people aren't comfortable playing certain types of assault in the game. Like, I get that,
yes.
But come on, like every little tiny thing, you're scared of spiders. It's like the whole I'm sure you guys know about the whole Pathfinder. There's been like a bunch of bullshit with Wizards of the Coast, but Paizo on the Pathfinder side, they got rid of slavery in the official gameplay because they're like, this triggers people. I'm like, but it's a largely pre-industrial world that's supposed to mirror our own medieval universe, medieval era world. Like, why would you not have slavery? And then all the whole, we're gonna get rid of half elves and half whatever mixed races because it's offensive. It's dumb. You're just destroying fantasy. We are not immersed in a fantasy world anymore.
That's when I knew you were serious, because Fiendish has slavery in it too, and like,
oh boy, does it.
And I was shocked, but not like, oh my god, I'm gonna clutch my pearls. I was shocked, like, okay, this she's really getting into it. This, you know, like, because let's face it, like it's a staple part of human history. Like, there's more slaves now than there ever was in the past. You know, it's not even historical. There's still real slavery nowadays. There's open slave markets in Libya right now that, you know, we can use spy satellites and see the slave markets. You know what I mean? It's to ignore it, I think, is so now I can understand. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends and we don't want to have slavery. That's one thing, but to officially like make a statement that you can't do it, the half races bothered me. You know, I'm like, what's
that's for someone to homebrew. That's like a choice the players can always make on their own.
Now, RJ, I feel so bad. I feel like I'm leaving you out.
No problem.
Sorry. Talk a lot.
You know, did you play? I don't know Pathfinder. I assume it comes with modules and everything too. Like Shadowpunk brings up Tomb of Horrors. If you play Dungeons and Dragons back in my day, you should just get a T-shirt that says "I died in the Tomb of Horrors." There's nobody survived. It was brutal. It was brutal. I have nightmares about that. I didn't survive the Tomb of Horrors. I think 2 different characters died in the Tomb of Horrors. Ghost Tower of Inverness, I didn't survive. But
Queen of the Damned? How about Queen of the Damned? Did you survive that?
I don't think we played that one. There was one, what was it called? Keep in the Borderlands. It was a spaceship landed in D&D, and there was laser guns and stuff. And I remember people were outraged. D&D with laser guns? What are you, nuts? I thought it was fun. What do you think about orcs just as misunderstood, just want to have a family and a life?
That's retarded.
Yeah.
I like you more and more every time I meet you, Renie.
Well, thanks. It's so dumb.
Abolish fictional slavery. Yes.
The point of orcs are they're evil.
Yeah.
Why can't it's a fantasy world. It's not a commentary on real. I love it when and by love I mean I think it's really, really dumb when somebody has a problem with a fantasy world having like a non-human species. They call it races, but it's a different species. Orcs are a different species. They're born evil, and so people are really offended by that. And I think that's a commentary on some kind of real human race. When in the world, it's not. In the world, there's like usually most fantasy worlds have all the same, you know, phenotypes that real humans do. Humans have racial variations, and orcs are obviously a separate thing. And it's evil species in fantasy, I think, are a shorthand for how we should confront evil when we do encounter it in the real world, because objective evil does exist. And then people either are uncomfortable with the idea. People nowadays are either uncomfortable with the idea that objective evil does exist, or they think everything is a commentary on human race. And that's stupid.
Yeah, dragons aren't real. You know, orcs aren't real. Goblins aren't real. They're monsters. You know, and every once in a while, like my group encountered a good mind flayer, you know, and he was the one good mind flayer. You know what I mean? He was
Okay.
so just because I wanted to fool them, kind of like they were going to attack them and stuff like that, and then they realized. But the point, mind flayers are evil, they're horrible, but so I don't have a problem like if you make like, oh, this is the guy against type, this is the good goblin or whatever. But orcs in my game, did you ever see the movie Blown Tomahawk?
I actually just watched it.
Okay, those are orcs.
It's great.
Those,
That was fun.
So like when my players know that there's going to be orcs, their first reaction is, okay, we're just moving the village, we're just leaving, because you know, the orcs in my game, like, okay, so they're not going to knock you down to -2 and then go. No, they're going to knock you down to -2 and then cut your legs off. You know, and if you're a male, you're food. If you're a female, you're not food. You're something else. And that's what the orcs do. So they use tactics. They're scary. They'll burn the village down. And then I also decided that orcs transmit disease. So most likely you're already sick and have a fever before you're even fighting. So you're diminished before that. Yeah. So
that's brutal. That's really good though.
Orcs are terrible. Like in my fantasy world, all the races have like a benefit, and one of the, like, the elves are smart and long lived and best with magic. But in my world, they're susceptible to disease. Everything has to work. And then humans are like the baseline, you know, that everything else. Yeah. But orcs, they could breed with everything. So if orcs capture an elf girl, they have little orcish elf children, and then they abuse them until they're orcs. You know what I mean? And if they capture a dwarf, they have tough little dwarf. That's their superpower, is that they could basically mate with. So there is no real orc race in my world. They're just mongrel, disgusting, monstrous race, and there's no hope for them. They spread disease, and that's one of the things they do, is they just, you know, let their food rot. They abuse each other until only the toughest survive.
So they're a whole race of biowarfare.
Yeah. And
great.
My players know that if they ever meet female orcs, just run. Because if they were tough to survive and have all their limbs intact, then they are either like super smart, badass fighters or worse, shamans or something like that, you know. So
interesting.
Yeah. I
love it. Yeah, I like that setup.
I like to have the familiar, like, okay, there's a dwarves, but then have something that's different about them. You know, I've been playing with my friends for 20 years, and they still don't know the secret of elves, you know, because I won't let them play elves. You know, I had one friend, she wanted to play an elf, but we compromised. She was a barbarian, so she didn't really know the secrets of the elves because she lived out in the sticks. So like, I you know what I mean? I don't know. And now it looks like we're never going to tell the secret of the elves because I don't play with that group anymore. Yeah, but anyway. So RJ, what do you play? I feel like I'm excluding you. What character would you, when you come here and play D&D with us, what do you want to be? A paladin?
I always play ranger. Okay,
that's good. I expect RJ to be some wholesome good guy, you know. I would have been disappointed if he's like, I want to be a necromancer, you know.
I don't know. Is it only second edition that has special enemies? Because I always play ranger and you get a specialized enemy for hits. Anyway, that's just the thing I always do.
In subsetting, humans are like, yeah, you know, you could have monstrous humans too. Don't get me wrong. Hey Brian, how you doing? I got to say, Six Gun Gorilla was awesome. I can't wait for more Six Gun Gorilla. It was such a good comment. So, I just had a question, and now I distracted myself. Where was I? Not fun. Goblin emojis. What's up? Oh, okay. This is what I wanted to ask both of you guys. I know RJ's familiar enough with Dungeons & Dragons. Do you think they're getting carried away with character classes? Like, what really is the distinction between like a mage and a wizard? You know, like, why are they two different classes?
I like having 1,000,001 classes because I mean, I play Pathfinder, and Pathfinder is even more ridiculous because you have mages, wizards, sorcerers, clerics, oracles, and then you have archetypes and as many archetypes as you want. They even have third-party archetypes for every single class, and then you have hybrid classes, and then you have whatchamacallit, the ones where you can go above level 20, prestige classes or something like that. So I like having that option because it feels like you can really build whatever character you want. I think it adds to the game.
Okay. Because like Brian says, Paladin, Barbarian have always been I always looked at a Barbarian. It was just a fighter from a less advanced society. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you really need to? I'm a fighter. Okay, I'm a fighter from like a fictional Viking world, or I'm a fighter from a fictional Arctic world. You know what I mean? Like, they're just fighters in different settings. But
yeah, I like that. It's kind of like Paladins draw their Paladins, Barbarians, and Fighters are all martial classes, but Paladins draw extra magical power by being very devoted to a god, and they have to live by certain rules, and that set of rules are very important to their behavior, and they lose their powers. And Barbarians are more, ooh, I just have ancestral blood magic. And Fighters, at least in Pathfinder, they're weapon specialists. So I like that differentiation.
Okay. Because that's another, like, I use my superhero role-playing game to play fantasy setting. You know, I don't like the fact that, like, there's just hit points. Like, I like the fact that we have this tiredness scale, and I like that. That sounds great. This is my favorite. I mean, but like if you have an 18 strength, there's a chart and it gives you a modifier, and then if you have an 18 endurance, there's a chart and then you multiply all the modifiers to get, and that's your hit points. So your intelligence, your endurance, your agility, all those stats, you multiply this number, and that gives you a hit. So you could be first level and have 300 hit points if you have heightened strength, like Colossus or something like that, or you can be first level and have 4 hit points, if you're Aunt May. But because it's, but I never liked that in D&D. It was just like, okay, here's all your stats. Now roll 1d10, see how many hit points. And I know there's a modifier to it, but it's still a randomness that I didn't like. But so I play this, but my players couldn't get past the fact that I did away with all the character classes. So it's like, okay, you want to be a wizard? Okay, so just buff up your intelligence and learn magic skills. Like, okay, you want to use dual-handed sword preferences, you're wasting like reading magic and learning arcane spells slots kind of thing. And they were like, no, we just want a package. And I was like, you 25-year-old kids, learn to think for yourself. You know.
That's interesting. I guess it's just allowing, or not allowing, but encouraging the players to customize more and build what class they're going to be instead of having it pre-done or pre-made.
Have you ever played a wizard in a wheelchair?
In a world of magic, why would they still need a wheelchair? Wouldn't they be able to just regenerate the legs? Or
I know
it makes no sense.
I want to. Next time I play with a group of people, I want to have an orc baker in a wheelchair. That's gonna be my character.
Yeah, that is a good question. Why in a world of magic, a regular person who doesn't have access to magic, sure, you're gonna have people who have peg legs and are in wheelchairs, but somebody who is a wizard, which means educated and has access to magic, why? It just doesn't make sense. It means that's a choice. I don't think that's like a choice for anyone.
To my way of thinking, wizards should be like rare. You know what I mean? Like, like the average baker doesn't have access, but I would imagine they would have access to a priest. You know what I mean? Who specializes in healing. So, like, I don't know, like,
true.
Why am I in the wheelchair? Because God hates you. That's why you're in the wheelchair.
Wait, that would be funny, Rob. If it's like you have access to a priest, but this priest of this town is just a dick and refuses to heal people. It's like, well, you didn't behave well enough, so I'm not going to heal you. You just deserve pain.
RJ, what would you be a human ranger?
Yeah, I always play human. I don't know why, but I always do. I'm so used to Ultima because you only get human classes, and then you get to determine. You only get human race, and then you get to determine your classes after that. So, and that's what I usually played.
if I play Dungeons Dragons, you know, I've been the game master in my group for years. You know, I'm talking like 30 years. I can't even remember the last time I played. But if I was to play Dungeons Dragons, I would play a human paladin in armor with the longsword. That is the coolest thing. I feel like the restrictions of the paladin make it more fun to play. Plus, who doesn't want to be a self-righteous guy with the sword? Back you demons! It's just so much fun. Brian Christoph says, I hate freaking tieflings. I never played with tieflings. That's after my time. They're like demon kids, right? Or something?
Yeah, they're demon kids.
Yeah. There's like a million playable races. Like I remember it was just dwarves, elves, half orcs, and humans, right? That was really...
Yeah, there's tons. It's like every fantasy race from around the world, they put it in fantasy games now. Pathfinder has all of them. You can play as a Samsara, a Tengu, so whatever you want.
Yeah, they couldn't Geordie's. Yeah, that was because I remember if you watch the pilot episode of Star Trek, in the very first scene, they're beaming somebody up, and the transporter guy has glasses on, and then they cut away, and then when they come back, he doesn't have the glass. It was a mistake. Roddenberry said, "No, take the glasses off. No, there's no glasses in the." So Geordie just defeats. I don't know how Gene Roddenberry let there be Geordie. It's funny. I went to my chiropractor today, and all we talked about was Star Trek. He wants me to go to the Star Trek convention. They're getting adjusted. He's cracking my back. He's like, "Who's your favorite captain?"
You better give the right answer.
And it's funny because one of his patients was Leonard Nimoy's lover from the 70s.
Really?
And she gave him like papers and photographs of Leonard Nimoy. I'm like, which patient? He goes, I can't tell you.
Oh, interesting.
I could see a niche like gnome illusionist who had gnomish enchanted wheelchair, and he's like a little tinker gnome in a little battle wheelchair.
Yeah.
There was a really good,
like a tinker. Yeah,
a really good anime. I can't remember where they're separated into domes. It's kind of like a Logan's Run, where magic only works in different ways when you're under that dome. It's really interesting concept. It's basically a Dungeons and Dragons world, but in a fantasy future.
Cool.
Is shifters is a race? What are they, like shapeshifters?
I think shifter is a class, isn't it?
Okay. If you could be like a fighter shifter, that's giving the player too much power. Even worth with Insurrection. What is that? A movie or a book that I'm missing? Is Crom the Destroyer still available on Indiegogo? I remember the first crisis I had as a DM was I moved out to Albuquerque, so now I'm playing Dungeons & Dragons with a new group of people, and I'm taking out my books and we're playing, and one of the guys wanted to play a centaur. And I'm like, you can't be a centaur. This is a fantasy game, And then I was like, just let the guy be a centaur. But like, it ended up
crazy.
It ended up being bad because like he couldn't do a lot of things that the other player, like he couldn't get into spaces. You know what I mean?
I'm getting berated by Ryan in the comments because I need to go to my stream. So I want to say goodbye, Renie. Nice to see you again.
You're leaving already. Okay.
I love
well, it was nice seeing you again. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, RJ Clockwork, like his audience is waiting for him at 9:30. So
all right.
If you want to go, you can go out. Shifters are part.
I'll hang out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spock? Yeah.
Well, it is a race.
People talk about Gene Roddenberry being a player, but Leonard Nimoy was a player too. All those guys were. He's got good Gene Roddenberry stories. Yeah, they fixed Geordie's eyes in a later thing. Harrowberg, bye, RJ. Hail to Radio. Met you at Heroes Con last year. You gave my friend Grant your not safe for work book. I didn't know there was a workbook.
Yeah. I have a art book that was a convention exclusive. So hail.
I didn't know that.
Yes, indeed.
You're not afraid to draw a couple of, should I say?
Yeah, I don't know.
Good girly stuff.
I don't have a problem with the TNA. I don't do anything super overt, but
no.
I just think it's fun. It's not a problem.
And my wife wanted to say she's a fan of yours. She goes, she loves how excited you get about things. She goes,
Ah!
she goes, she's typically in a boy's world with comic books, Dungeons and Dragons. She goes, but then she's all like girly and squee. Yeah, you know,
Ah, thank you.
yeah, George.
Tell your wife thanks. That's
George
so sweet.
Takei. Yeah. I know.
Oh my God.
Gene Roddenberry, there's that famous story where I'm trying to think who walked in the door and he was with Lieutenant Uhura in a compromising position.
Oh my.
Was he
I
indeed
don't need
a player?
these
Who do you
things.
ask it? RJ never got to play. He had an older brother who wouldn't let the little brother play with him, so he always read the
Aw.
book. That's why I was saying you and I talking about this. I said it's like a growing up. Americans are messed up when it comes to nudity in art.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I have noticed this. That an American audience is particularly prudish with many things, and it's a little it's not difficult because everyone's been very, it hasn't been a problem per se, and people are very supportive, but sometimes people will it just seems like the scale for what's not suitable for work or edgy is lower, especially when it comes to nudity in America than in Asia or Europe. That's just how it is. It's fine.
I think people still think of comic books as little kid stuff.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not, but we're talking about the average normie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I my comic heroic tales, I'd like it to be all ages, I being shocking, I'll push the envelope, but I don't really want to do nudity or excessive gore and stuff like that, but whatever. But I do have a comic, Eddie is Doomed, and there's going to be some suggestivity and nudity in it, but not, it's going to be uncomfortable nudity. I'm warning everybody right now, but when it's ready to come out, I will warn everybody. And then I have a vampire story that is going to be just disgusting. I'm just going to let you know it's gross because vampires are supposed to be monsters. So I one of my friends read the script and there's a vampire sex scene and she said it was the most disturbing thing she's ever read in her life.
That's gonna people commit to that kind of fantasy concept where it's like, oh, they just bite you and suck the blood. How about something more? You can do some really fucked up stuff.
Well, let's just put it this way: vampires are dead walking corpses.
Ooh, I like that.
So they're not a romantic Anne Rice in my world. They're literally corpses that, and we'll leave it at that.
Amazing.
Yeah, and she got the yeah. My mom was from Germany. They bought the first issue of Heavy Metal, and Heavy Metal, has a lot. True, most Comic Cons have rules against the sale or display. I saw a comment, and somebody called your book demonic.
Oh, okay. No. Well, people have been, I don't know if people are joking, but they've kind of been like, oh, there's so many demons. Like, I don't think Fiendish is edgy or shocking at all, but some people have been like surprised by, oh, there's demons. But okay, a funny story. I was at, I think it was Heroes Con. Yeah, because Michael Rushbrook was there. And he told me this because I didn't see it, but some guy walked by, picked up Carnal the Barbarian, which is Jake's book. You guys know Hyper Wizard. He's got this raunchy comedic fantasy book. The world building is based on sex magic. It's very much comedic fantasy, and there's boobs, but there's no like demonic nudity stuff. And I had my not suitable for work art book next to it, and this guy picked up the Carnal preview book and was like, oh, this is like nice, and he was just smiling, and then puts it down, picks up my naked demon girl book, and basically had a mini stroke, figuratively, not really, almost threw the book down and ran away in a horror. And I mean, I don't think it was that shocking. It's not like there wasn't even anything overt or satanic. It was just sexy girls. But yeah, he didn't like that.
Yeah, well, now I'm probably gonna spoil something if I could find it.
No.
I actually asked Renzo to tone down a scene, in issue 2 of Heroic Tales. I was like, I don't. and I'm trying to find it. But okay.
A guy in his room said that's what I was referencing. I thought the guys, this is demonic. No, someone else referenced the actual Fiendish books and said, this is very demonic. And I think I was like, the demons are the bad guys. And then I think they said they were joking. So, but sometimes I can't tell because it's Twitter.
I just found it, and then my Twitter crashed.
So it's okay. Yeah, I can bant about this for a while. Marcus Killigrew says, well, there's all kinds of Heroes Con. Well, Heroes Con is a great show, by the way. Everyone should go. America can't handle sexy girls. They're not ready. I mean, America can, but it's just a different barometer. For example, currently I'm watching the new season of Dr. Stone, which is amazing anime. And I'm so happy that there's a new season out. Yay. But it's a kids show. It's actually a really good kids show because it's the main characters' superpower is he is a really smart scientist. It's great. It's if you want to inspire kids to be interested in science, this show is how you do it. Like Japan knows what they're doing with this kind of inspirational kids material. But anyways, it's for like probably elementary to middle school kids. I would say definitely a shonen. And in this new episode, there's a honeypot. And you would never have that in an American show for kids, but they have that, and they reference like, ooh, voluptuous girls, and the characters are young. They're like young adults or high school age-ish, and there's nothing overt. There's no sex or anything, but like that's the barometer. You never have that in America.
So this is the first page of Heroic Tales 2. So I showed this before. This is, patriarch and his wife. They're planning on spending the day together. And what a husbands and wives. They love each other. They spend time together. They're finishing up, and then duty calls and he has to leave, But the original sketches that Renzo sent me, I was like, I can't publish this.
What? That's nothing. That's wholesome.
Yeah, I know. But it's that, but I love it.
That's totally, this is such, everything is covered, is perfectly wholesome. They're married. Like you can't get less shocking than this.
Right. And
I mean, probably wouldn't show it to like little kids, but come on.
Like I say,
Not a big deal.
But people forget comics in the 80s. Like the one scene I remember up when people like, oh, you can't. I was like, do you remember the scene with Starfire and Dick Grayson in bed together? That's just as suggestive as, even it's more suggestive because they weren't married. It was a space alien and it was Batman's sidekick. You know what I mean? So this is a married couple that has 7 kids already, guys. How do you think they got there?
Yeah, how did those kids happen? I don't know if it's one of those rose-tinted glasses for the past kind of things, but I can't help but feel like the 80s and 90s were a little less prudish in that regard. Those are good times.
We're talking about that, like 80s films. Okay, back in the 80s, going to the movie theater, like first off, the horror movies were scaring the crap out of everybody. They were PG-13. Go back and watch Gremlins. The first Gremlin, they were throwing monsters in the microwave, they were exploding. And then there was PG comedies that had nudity. Go watch Revenge of the Nerds, guys. That would get destroyed today. There was like a lot of nudity and there's nothing like the 80s. Things are so toned down. The 80s were risque. There was a lot of suggestive stuff. And now I'm trying to get back to
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think I wonder if the internet and the saturation of stuff has made people feel more protective about their media.
Well, not only that, I think it's the media. I mean, the internet and everything. It gave the fringe people a voice.
Yeah.
So, like, there's slavery and fiendish, and some lunatic could say something, and corporations are scared. One person saying something, so like they say, if you see one cockroach in your house, there's really 1,000. You know what I mean? So there must be other people that think, but you own fiendish, so you're not going to kowtow to people unless you want to. You know what I mean? You don't have to do. Yes, and I'm keeping that page. I'm not changing it. The next page is even worse, as far as but there will be suggestive uses of letter balloons, word balloons.
Wow. Yeah, there is a Fiendish 1 had like a little nudity. Fiendish 2 didn't, but I've told people there's gonna be boobs, and Fiendish 3 has more. So I hope.
See, I didn't know. Like I said, I was shocked, but in a good way, that there was slavery. There was not that I'm like, yay, slavery, but I was like, okay, this is a mature book. It's a fantasy world with a foot set in the real world, which to me makes it like more stakes. You know what I mean? Like if I forget her name, the red wizard girl, and then the
Ragnar.
Yeah, and then that purple slave girl, like that girl, I get nervous when she goes out in public because there's a real chance that she could get abducted and forced into a life that she doesn't want to live. And it makes it scary. And like I bite my nails, reading about her.
Oh, yes.
But if it was just she could just walk down the street with no consequences, then there's no emotion, there's no tension.
Yeah, I mean, you need to establish these stakes in the story. I think a lot of these ideas of, well, we can't have anything offensive. Well, you're removing stakes. You're removing a symbol of a shorthand for evil, or you're, in the case of like orcs, or you're removing stakes from the world. Like, well, you just thought it possible to have slavery. It's like, well, get rid of death then. Like, let's just live in unicorn flowerland. Well,
in Heroic Tales, in the backup story, it's the origin of a supervillain who's going to be he becomes the mayor of the city. And if you know anything about me, you know I hate all politicians. So he made a deal with the devil, and he jumped from I'm applying to work for the deputy mayor to the next time you see him, he's the full mayor. Because he made a deal with the devil. But one of the things that he did was he saw evidence of sex trafficking, with the little girl. And people got mad at me and started accusing me. I'm like, dude, I'm not this is a guy who dealt with the devil. And you know what I mean? Like, he's the bad guy. He's clearly the bad guy. I don't know. So stop.
Yeah, it's another thing where people think
that my bad guys just don't knock over a gumball machine and take the pennies out and run down the street. The bad guys do bad things because that's what bad guys do.
The idea that if you have it in your story, that means you endorse it. Well, if that's the message, then you can never have conflict. Your antagonist can never do bad things because just by merit of it existing in your story, that means you're okay with it. I mean, not everything is supposed to be a moral lesson or a moral declaration.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Doom kills people. Does that mean Jack Kirby and Stan Lee endorsed murder? You know what I mean? Knock it off, people. Grow up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now
she does look good after 7 kids.
What's that?
She does look good after 7 kids.
Yeah, I'll show you how good in a second if I could figure out how to, use my computer.
I'd love to aim for that. If only we could all look like that after a bunch of kids.
Well, this is page 2.
So, yay! Woo!
Yeah,
interesting.
She looks good, but she has 50% of her body is covered in burns, which is I'll address in a future story. I didn't bring it up yet. So I told Renzo when he sent me the pencils of this, I was just like, make the boobs look more natural. I don't like bolt-ons, and cover them up a little bit.
Hey.
So there will be an art of Longbox comics at some point with the full on original Renzo sketches.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Why can't I shut this off? Okay, there we go. Oh, you didn't see anything?
Oh, StreamYard's been doing that for me. Yeah, when you share a screen, there's a lag before the chat can see it.
Oh, okay. Let me know, guys.
Yeah, so you're going to have to keep it on until they can see it. Yep.
Yeah, no, the thing that happened to Jake before, yeah. So
yeah, a lot of streams haven't.
I guess we'll talk about this. Like, do you get crazy people just commenting on you? Like, I'm starting to get it now, which makes me feel a little happy because that means maybe I'm arriving. you get like the Twitter brigade just saying stupid, nasty things that makes, you know, I don't even.
Yeah, I mean, I get some silly comments that I ignore because, like, I don't generally do drama, even if it's about my story. It's like, okay, that's your opinion. But no, I haven't gotten, for example, people were saying they were surprised by slavery, and if anything was going to offend someone, I had thought it would be that. But maybe I just haven't gotten enough people to read chapter 2 yet, and I feel a little nervous because I know people have read it. People have done reviews on it, and people really like Yomi. So here's the thing: because her character has the most stakes, I can do more with revealing her character because she's the one character whose race is at threat for being enslaved at any time. They are by default slaves, and I can do, there's so much, like chapter 2 was all about her, and people love her because now you care about her. And you can see how she handles difficulties and conflicts. So this is why you need to give your world stakes and don't shy away from difficult subjects. Anyways, but yeah, I thought somebody would be offended by that. But no, I haven't encountered that. But it'll come soon. If it does occur, I will take that as a sign of success.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought I was going to get more blowback. Like when I saw Ron's artwork, because Lucius Kane, the guy going for the job interview, he basically finds a suit and he reaches his hand into the pocket and says, "Inspected by 666." You know, because I literally did buy a suit at a secondhand store and it did say inspected by 666. And I was like, I can't wear the devil suit. So I didn't buy that suit. But I always thought about that. So I put it. So that's this guy's origin is, you know, basically so this suit, whatever he needs is always in the pocket. So it's like, if he needs evidence, if you know, give me that girl's phone number. Oh, it's in his pocket, kind of thing. So he's on a job. The guy's saying, you know, we don't have any room for it. And he reaches his hand into his pocket and he pulls out a Polaroid of a little beat up girl. And when I saw that image, I was like, I don't think I could run this story. It's so like Ron nailed it out of the park. So the funny thing is, I didn't get too much, except for a couple of weirdos. But there's a scene of the patriarch goes hunting and kills an elk with his hands because, you know, he has superpowers. So he's like, oh, I forgot. I got to bring home some food. And he grabs an elk. People were outraged by that. You know, I'm just like, but I'm trying to establish he's a hunter. He homeschools. You know, he lives off the grid. And I'm trying to hint, you see the wife's scars. Something happened in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny because I didn't think nothing of it. People hunt, but man, people got mad at an animal getting killed, but they didn't really get upset about a human being being abused. But whatever.
Yeah, crazy. Well, I mean, people are very protective of animals,
Right.
Yeah, especially if it's not just, you know, you're shooting and hunting. What's funny is I had someone reading chapter 2 before it came out, did not like, there's a scene where there's a dev, well, he's not dev, it's a human, but a slave owner is beating this dev woman who's his slave, and I had someone proofreading it really not like that scene, and kind of their take was, well, you already said slavery exists, you don't have to be gratuitous about it. But personally, I didn't think it was gratuitous. It tied into how Yomi, my character who witnesses this beating, she intervenes. So I felt like I had to show what was happening, and that to show her and show how bad it is, because it's a direct reaction. It was story relevant. So at some point, you kind of have to just realize that everyone has different meters for these sorts of sensibilities, and yeah, I think as long as you're committing to the story and it's not just for shock value, it's fine because the story comes first.
I sent the script out to a couple of people, and I really wanted to get feedback about my ending. I really like the ending, and one guy's like, "Oh, that ending is so good," and then a couple of guys like, "Oh, the ending. This is what." So I said, "What do you think happened?" Because it's a little ambiguous, and all three of them told me different endings, and I'm like, perfect. That's kind of what I wanted. I want, you know. And then when you ask me, oh, what happened at the ending? What do you think? You know, I kind of wanted it to be like that. But the point being is, you know, feedback is good, but sometimes you just got to go with what you want to do. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Rutting elk are a-holes, apparently. Yeah. Patriarch might want to buy a reclusive cabin in Elk County where there's supposedly more elk than people.
Wow.
I don't know. How long would an elk last feeding 7 kids and 2 adults?
Not long.
I thought the scars happened from the 7 kids. They don't give you that type of scar.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what childbirth did. Oh no.
The spoiler I'll give you is it's a fire, because one person said, like, is she half alien? I was like, no, it's fire, but it's an art choice the way Renzo drew it.
I like that you committed, or Renzo committed to making it not look pretty. Like you can tell these are scars. It was a grievous injury. And I like it when people do that with a character, especially a female character, because sometimes people are afraid to do that.
It's funny that the woman from Global Comics asked me if, do you have a problem with women? Because I'm going to show you another piece of art, because this is the first page of Mary Sue, the second story in Heroic Tales 2. So, you know, each comic has 2 different stories. So this is, come on. I got this infinity thing and I can't stand it. There we go.
All right, take your time.
But this is page 1 of Mary Sue. And people like, do you have a problem? You know.
Oh, so, damn.
Yeah. And I said, no, because the patriarch gets beat up, you know, and the women get beat up too. So, you know, this is the first page, and then the rest of the story is a flashback. Her life is passing before her eyes. You know what I mean? That she's bleeding out. And so when I showed this page to the girl at Global Comics, do you have a problem with women? I was like, no. You should see what I'm doing to the poor men in my comic. You know, I'm just
yeah.
Everybody gets beat up. Have you read The Spirit? You know.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, blank again?
Aww.
For real?
Well, it was a full page spread of a lady very beat up and with glass shards in her. That's brutal.
She has a scar on her face for the Yeah, I'm one of 7 kids. You don't realize how much you're stealing from your own life, but like, you know, so I'm one of 7 kids. Patriarch of 7 kids.
Oh yeah. These things. It's funny. I'm just starting to realize this, and I'm sure you've already known this. You just become more and more like your parents as you get older, and your upbringing really reflects. It really shows in everything you do. I think a lot of my characters are like only children, or they don't have families, and I've been like, you know, I should put more characters with families and have more of a family dynamic, because my main character's a loner. All my other characters are loners or orphans, and I'm not trying to be edgy. I'm an only kid, and I left home really young. So, but like, I think family values are great, but if you write what you know, right?
Yeah, if issue 2 does well, I want to put the patriarch in his own comic, and then Heroic Tales will just be like other characters. So I'm able to expand it. So I want to add more of his family life and family drama. Like one of the things I just thought was funny is his second youngest boy. They're all musicians. You know, they homeschool. So one of the things they do is they play instruments, and they all specialize in instruments. So the youngest boy, when he finds out that he's not, superpowers aren't genetic. So they don't have superpowers. You know what I mean? They because that. So when the little boy finds out he's never going to fly, he doesn't have the powers. So he says, I'm a puny human. You know, like the Hulk.
Aww.
He's going to start a punk rock band called the Puny Humans. He's like mad at his father because my dad's the coolest guy in the world, and I'll, you know, don't get. So I think.
That's great.
So and one of the daughters, she's gonna have a how do you live up to the perfect mom and the perfect older sister, you know, things like that. So there's going to be problems with the family. And I think like the oldest kids are going to be more well adjusted because the parents had more time and doted on them. And then by the sixth kid, you're like, yeah, go ahead, do that. You know what I mean?
Is that how it goes?
Is it wrong that I want to? Good. Well,
I think that's normal. I think that makes you a normal person.
I love Mary Sue. I feel bad for Catholic. Mary Sue is Catholic. Mary Sue is Chinese. Sue is a Chinese name, and her grandparents fled Mao Zedong in China in the 50s. They came to America penniless, you know, as refugees, and then they started a little convenience kind of store in Flush. I know exactly the address and everything like that. And then their kids turned it into Sue Mart, which is like a supermarket chain. So Mary Sue is perfect in the fact that she's pretty. She's a doctor at 21. You know, the Chinese grandmother's like, you better be a doctor. She's a good she's a Catholic. She's a Roman Catholic. They fled because the Catholics were persecuted in China. And she's rich, you know, and she's a good girl, meaning she's a virgin. And when she goes to college, she gets teased. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'm trying to play on she's a Mary Sue. She's perfect, but perfect is subjective. She's perfect in the eyes of her Chinese grandmother. She's not perfect in the eyes of society and everything like that. So it's, if you want to put, am I the seventh son of a? No, I'm the fifth son of a third son. So I don't
Wow.
get the patriarch is Greek Orthodox. So he's Irish. He married a Greek woman, and he was never religious, but as he got older and started to see like real demons, stuff like that, he got religious. So a lot of the female characters are based on people that I know, ex-girlfriends and stuff. Like I dated a girl that was a Greek Orthodox, and I remember she said to me, don't even call me during Easter week. You know, I didn't realize how intense they go to church for like 6 hours a day, or at least her family does. And you know, so I kind of thought that was like real interesting because I grew up Roman Catholic, but I'm not too religious now. So I guess whatever. You have religions, like your characters all have like this gods and religions in your world.
Yeah, it functions more. It's kind of like how in Tolkien's world the gods are real, and same as like D&D and Pathfinder. And I don't have, the gods are pretty detached. It's not like they're directly meddling in the world itself, but they do exist and they have names. So the most people will follow certain gods that they favor. Either there's a family tradition to follow a certain god, or if you're like Casimir, he's a hunter, and Thrines is the goddess of the hunt. So he'll pray to her, and Casimir is religious, not probably in the way that most people think of religion because of, you know, my world building, but he also follows Adsila, and I like this concept a lot. Adsila is the goddess of true sight, and that's in the way I've built the god system, the pantheon in my world, which is all this is on the website, phoenixcomic.com. It's been on there for a while.
Right? These aren't just analogs of the Greek gods. These are your own gods, right?
I made it all up. It's completely made up. Yeah. So it's I kind of took some of it from like apparently in ancient Slavic religions. There's like a dichotomy or whatever you call it. It's like two sides of. There's like a lot of two sides of the same god or whatever. But I read up on it a little bit, and I'm making my own thing. And so in my world building, there's a page on my website, but nobody reads it because there's no pictures yet. There's one progenitor god.
I'm a kind of like, I don't want to read books.
Yeah, it's a long, giant page of prose that nobody reads, but it's all out there. It's on the website. So yeah, I have a progenitor god that's called Trinagia, and it's a being that's basically created the world and is both all-knowing but also all not caring, kind of just created the world and left. And then Trinagia has several sets of twins, and they all represent how do you call it, opposite concepts, so life and death.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
And life and death, some of them represent multiple opposite concepts, like night and day. And Vitharon and Humanea are like the warrior twins, and they're both all male and female. So life is female, death is male. Vitharon is the warrior god of vengeance. Humanea is the warrior goddess of mercy, so on and so forth. And Adsila is the goddess of true sight, and her counterpart twin is Milokto, who is the god of trickery and dishonesty, which obviously I took that. It's kind of like Loki, but he has counterpart who's the goddess of true sight. And she also is the goddess that takes the kind of like a Valkyrie figure that takes the dead to the afterlife in my world. So anyways, long story short, Casimir follows Adsila because he's connected to the shamans of Thalfrin, and these shamans, they're knowledge seekers. They care about true sight and seeing the truth and knowledge, so they pray to this god and they follow like the teachings that are known from her. So most of the gods are like sub gods. The main god is kind of not present, but I have a lot of sub gods and demigods and cults around those figures, and that comes into play a lot because that's thematically relevant to the story. And you guys will see why.
Cool. Did you ever see that episode of Community where they play Dungeons and Dragons?
No.
It's so good. I mean, if you're a Dragons fan, you don't have to. I love Community. That show was so good. But this particular episode, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then Chevy Chase is put into the other room because he's going against the party, and he's wealthy, and he bribes somebody, and he buys all the D&D books. So he gets the module beforehand, and he knows what's going to happen, and he's manipulating the game because he knows he read ahead of the module. So when I was listening to you, I love that you made up all the stuff, because I was thinking if this was a role-playing game, like I couldn't do that. Like I made up my own pantheon for my gods, and you know, I made up my own, like I said, I already explained orcs. There's the familiar, but I put my own spin on it so the people are they can't like, no, that's not the way it works. Minotaurs are like this, or you know, whatever. So I just think that's so cool that you made up all of the stuff. You made up your own language. You know, like if you were the DM, I would have to be on my toes and pay attention, because you can't just be like, no. Apollo worship is like this in the real world. And you're like, I just use Apollo, but Apollo.
We all have those meta gamers who will read ahead. I know that. But yeah, my goal was to build a world that was, I mean, even the fact that I used humans and the fact that it's Spoliad, a lot of people say they're similar to elves. They're not, but I can see why people think they're similar. And people have said the dev are similar to tieflings. They're not tieflings, but I see why people think that. And just that made me feel like I'm not being fantasy enough, because I wanted to be completely original. That's why I built the language. That's why I was like, I'm going to make my own magic system. And it takes place on a planet that's nothing like our planet. It's not like Arda, where it's meant to be a prehistory mythology. It's an entire different universe. But I realized at some point it's like a psychological thing where if it's not even human, I mean, you have works like Dark Crystal that don't feature humans at all, and there's a cult following. But really, if you want to communicate and have some faster appeal to the audience, you need to have at least humans there and some familiarity. So I was like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of Indo-European influence. Somebody in chat mentioned that. Yes, I did a lot of research into all kinds of Indo-European stuff. I was super into that for a while, still am. And there's some references to classical fantasy, but I put a little twist on it. So hopefully it worked out.
Yeah, I just reread Gore Vidal's Creation. It's probably my favorite book. It's about a fictional character. Gore Vidal is just like, within 50 years, we had like Confucius, we had Lao Tse, and we had Cyrus the Great, Plato, and Alexander. All what happened in this 50 years that the world produced all of these great people. So he made up a fictional Forrest Gump who was born in India, not India, in Persia, went to Greece, and then from Greece he went to India and China and back again. And then he's an old man telling a story about the world. And he keeps talking about the Indo-Europeans. You know, keep in mind this book I think was written in the 50s, I think the 40s. Before that, you know, he kept saying Aryans, and now we changed it to Indo-Europeans.
Yeah.
You know, but he's trying to keep it true to the Persians, and he's talking about how the Greeks and the Indians and the Persians are all descended from the Aryans. And, you know, again, that term has been bastardized by Funny Mustache Man. So we change it to Indo-European. And I'm kind of fascinated by that. So I do like that you use that in your or the Indo-European mythology.
So I got interested in Indo-European history just because of the languages, and I like languages. I get it from my dad. My dad, he's American, but he speaks like 3 or 4 languages. He majored in Chinese and then moved to Taiwan to do translation. Like, he speaks French and some Japanese. So I just, language and communication is really interesting for me. And the Indo-European language family is the language family that almost all currently living European languages, and also many Middle Eastern languages and Northern Indian languages are part of the same family tree. So that's why there's a lot of cognates between like Indian gods and Norse gods and Roman gods. It's because there's a common connection. And what happened is, thousands of years ago in prehistory, you had this group of basically steppe conquerors that drank a lot of milk and were real tough. They just invaded. They were kind of in, like, I guess Ukraine or that central, that steppe area. They just like spilled over, invaded Europe and Persia and northern India, and their culture and language mixed with the local cultures, but the traces of their culture still exist now. And that's just super cool that you can roll back all of these super different cultures that exist nowadays and find a common root.
Right. Like in Greece, we have Zeus Pater, Sky Father. In Italy, he's Jupiter. And if you go to India, it's Dayus Patar, and that's the Indian god for the sky. It's all the same god that from the same root. Now Herrenberg says now they're called the Yamnat. They came up with a new term. I got to look that up. I didn't know that.
I think Yamnaya is. I might be wrong. I'm not a.
This is the first time hearing it.
Yeah, I'm not an anthropologist. I just follow a lot of YouTube channels that talk about this. But I think Yamnaya is one prominent Indo-European group, one of many. But yes, they are a large group. They
probably took that name to. I'm just hearing it now. Now I'm just explaining what it means. But I could see them like Aryan fell out of favor. So we're going to take another word. Don't say Aryan. That's not a cool word.
Yeah. Well, I think it's Indo-European. Is basically that's the new that's the post Mustache Man term for Aryan, because like the actual Aryans were not what he thought they were. He bastardized a lot of things, and it sucks because history is interesting. But yeah,
isn't Odin Wotan and Thor Tyr? Yeah, and they. But look at the similarity between all the European gods. You had the Sky Father, you had the Hammer God. You have the god of the sea. I mean, yes, they're all nature tropes, but they're kind of silly. And that's one of the things I want to put in my comic book is, when you're the hammer god to the Greeks, you're the god of artifice, but that same god perceived by the barbarian Vikings see him as the war god, but he's the same being, just different perspectives by different cultures.
Yeah. I think Wotan was like a variant. Odin was the Norse name, and I think Thor and Tyr are different, but definitely, of course, god of thunder and all that. There's obviously a cognate in Greek mythology. You see the same thing in Asian mythology. It's like just growing up in Chinese culture, but being really close to Japanese culture as well, you see the differences. And well, it's like Japan has their version of Buddhism, and Taiwan has our version of Buddhism, and then Tibet has their version of Buddhism as well. And then also some Chinese gods have been borrowed by Japanese culture, like the god of thunder and so on and so forth. And it's some things, but some things, of course, are original to Japan or China, and that was just really cool to see. And I think growing up multicultural makes these kinds of things stand out, and you start like wanting to dig more.
Did you get interested in mythology young?
I don't actually think so. I don't know. I like fantasy.
Because
I don't think it was mythology straight up. It wasn't. I think it's like my mom would try to tell me about mythology and Buddhist stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. But fantasy was always interesting. Like, I love Dinotopia and making up fantasy worlds. I'm sure everyone's like, were you the same way? Were you always interested in building your own worlds because you're a DM? You're the forever DM. You have to have been interested in that young, right?
Oh, I was about to say, what's the director's name? Nolan. His next movie is going to be The Odyssey, and then people, are like, oh yeah, The Odyssey, and people are like, well, I've never heard of it. And he's like, what are you talking about? Every American boy knows The Odyssey from 5th grade, and people are like, nobody does. And I was like, I knew The Odyssey from 5th grade. Like I've been reading Greek mythology like as early as I've been reading comic books. People
don't know The Odyssey.
I was like, and I'll never forget somebody got destroyed on Twitter. They're like, what are the? Yeah, it's so bad, so stupid. The name, the story, The Odyssey, just happens to have a character named Odysseus. Now I don't know if that was being funny.
the word is from his name.
But like, I've always loved Greek mythology as a little kid, and like, it shows you what a freak I am. I used to take index cards, and I would put the names of the gods, and I would try to put the cards and all the myths in chronological order. Like, okay, so like the 7 against Thebes had to have happened before this, and Jason the Argonauts happened because Hercules was on. And then I realized the continuity of Greek mythology doesn't line up, and it was driving me crazy because I'm a crazy person like that, But I remember this. I just found my little notes and was asking me about it, and I was like, "Am I in trouble?" But I talked.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, the Odyssey from Old Brother. Yeah, when I told people that, I'm like, oh yeah, Old Brother went out there. It's the Odyssey. That's why his name is Ulysses. That's why his wife's name's Penelope. That's why the flood happens at the end. He meets John Goodman, who has the eye patch. He's the Cyclops. The 3 girls in the water that are singing. Those are the sirens. You know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
Do you know the Old Brother were out there with the. Yeah, that's the Coen brothers retelling the Odyssey.
I've barely seen any movies, but yeah, I believe you.
Yeah. Everybody's asking me about the new Daredevil show. I'm like, I'm not going to watch 8 episodes of a show that then get the lecture on transgenderism on episode 9, and then I'm pissed off and I'm not going to finish it. So I'll wait till it's done, and then you guys tell me if it's good or not. Yeah, that's the way I am. But no man is hurting me. Best Odyssey quote. Yeah, no man. Yeah, the Polyphemus, the Cyclops that was the child of Odysseus, was the Cyclops, and Odysseus stabbed him in the eye, and he ran out, and he said, "Nemo did this. Nemo did this," because he said and Nemo is Greek for no one.
Nemo, no name.
Is Captain No One.
Mm-hmm.
Renie doesn't know much about. I think you know enough about Americana.
There's a lot of media I don't know.
Well, did you grow up in the States?
No.
No. You grew up in Taiwan, right? I read in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Greek Polyphemus. Yep. Yeah, I know stuff about Greek mythology, but I don't remember yesterday. Or those today. I don't watch any. But
that's how we all are.
Yeah. Well, I got to go to bed. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I could talk for another hour. Yeah, my bedtime is normally 9:30, but I was having fun.
Okay. Well, no problem. Yeah, sleep is important, but thanks for having me on. I'm glad we got to talk more
Yeah.
tabletops. Yeah, every time I'm on, it's a lot of fun, and all the mythology and tabletop talk.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me wax on about my my world building.
Oh no, I love that. I love that stuff. I think it's so much fun here. Like I the story I always tell is I can't stand talk shows anymore. Like I realized that you watch. I was gonna say David Letterman isn't dated reference, but you watch, whatever, David Letterman, and I didn't realize for a long. It's just a commercial for their newest TV show. So like I stopped watching. One day I was watching, I forget who it was, but he started talking about he collects typewriters. He's like, how did you know I collect? And he started talking about, I got this type. I was riveted by this conversation. I know nothing about typewriters,
Cool.
but I loved other people's passion about their silly hobbies. Like my friend's wife is into the Rangers, the hockey game. I could listen to her talk about the Rangers all day long. I know nothing about. I love hearing people talk about, like, my brother's into motorcycles. He'll talk to me about motorcycles. I just sit there and listen. But
that's true. That's why I love talking to comics people, and it's like, I mean, I don't even care if I'm not selling books on a stream. It's just fun to talk to people who are passionate about something, and I think people. This is why Hollywood is dying, and nobody cares about talk shows, because it's not authentic, and people would rather watch streams. It's so much better.
Yeah. I'd rather listen to somebody with 2,000 followers talking about their comic book, and they're made up gods for an hour and a half than I don't know. I was gonna say an act like Gilda Radner, like she's been dead for 30 years. People know. Shows you how old I am. Talk about the latest, my newest Hollywood slop movie. That who cares? Amy. I'm almost pregnant. I don't care about your movie. I don't care about you. But I've been saying this for like the longest time. I would love like that what's that asshole? Bill Maher. Bill Maher should have, like, he had that politically incorrect, and it's just like, some congressman, some actor, this guy, and then like a regular guy and a construction worker named John. Just make sure that the guy can actually talk, and present himself. And then, like, have a regular man on the streets opinion on all these talk shows. Like, yeah, in Hollywood, yeah. And then you're crazy. That's not going to work. I live paycheck. I think that would be a great show. There you go. We'll start a talk show of just regular people.
That would be great. Well, that's YouTube, isn't it?
I think YouTube is the greatest thing. I don't watch
TV
anymore. I don't even know what's on TV anymore. I watch stupid. And then I hope you guys all watch It's Clobbering Time on Friday, where we talk about the Winter Soldier versus Deathstroke, the Terminator. Watch Renie on Wednesdays. You do world building, right? You and Allie?
I do that. That's Monday. It's every other week, but every Thursday. So tomorrow, I'll be on the Creative Blog, which is another. Well, that's the writing for comics stream. It's a group stream I do with Jake, Phil, Diaz, and Pear, aka Narwhal, and then I do another stream with Allie. But yeah. Tomorrow on Jake's channel, Hyper Wizard channel. See you guys there.
Oh, cool. What time?
At 10 Eastern.
Tell Noah
10 p.m. Eastern.
It's a long time since he's been on the channel too. I enjoy, just a good guy.
Yeah.
I enjoy talking with him. All right.
Yeah, he's a chill guy.
3 hours, but if I don't go to bed, I'll be like wandering tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, go to bed. Thanks again. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.